So today I'm going to be putting coal inside of my kiln. I just want to see what happens, okay? Alright, I just want to know. I have to know what happens.
Everything about you. Everything about you.
Hello you dirty potters, how are you today? Today we're going to be experimenting with my Tenmoku gold recipe. Now the reason we're experimenting with it is because I used to have an excellent Tenmoku gold recipe and it looked like this all the time, all day, every day, Sweet Susie. Now I've been using this recipe for about 4 or 5 years and this is the way it came out almost every single time until I left Alpha Fired Arts and I got my own kiln. The used kiln that I got when I left Alpha Fired Arts and Yoshio Taylor was a little bit old. I even had to replace the elements, but I never replaced the soft brick inside of it. So it probably doesn't hold as much heat as it possibly could. And that's most likely why my Tenmoku gold recipe doesn't work the way it used to anymore. You see, the recipe is probably fine, but the atmosphere I'm holding it in isn't, or the heat that I'm giving it most likely isn't enough. And because of that, my Tenmoku gold recipe comes out like this a large majority of the time. It's very rare that I actually get this effect. This is not what I want for my Tenmoku gold recipe. This is really rough, there's no gold inside of it, it's not even that dark Tenmoku color that it usually comes with. But I did start to notice that it turned out a lot better on the inside of most of my products. This led me to believe one of two things. Either I'm firing this the wrong temperature, meaning that it's either underfired or overfired, or I'm not getting enough carbon in my kiln because I have an oxidation kiln, and usually this seems to work with a tiny bit of reduction in my atmosphere. Not like there's a lot in my oxidation kiln anyway. So I messaged Tim C on Facebook and asked him, hey, what would happen if I put coal inside of my kiln? And he immediately was like, okay, why? Why would you do that? And I proceeded to tell him the exact same story of what I just told you. In fact, I showed him this exact cup and this exact bowl. And in his opinion, it's most likely underfired as well. But... okay, look, Tim, I want to put coal inside my kiln. Don't. Your pottery is probably just underfired. Tim, you're a wonderful artist, and I thank you for your suggestions. I'm going to put my pottery inside the hot spot of my kiln if they are Tenmoku gold from now on, but also, I'm probably gonna put coal in my kiln anyway, because I'm super curious about what happens. What's good? It's your boy. So today I'm going to be putting coal inside of my kiln. I just want to see what happens, okay? Alright, I just want to know. I have to know what happens. Not only am I going to be putting coal inside my kiln, we're also going to be testing a bunch of different combinations of glazes with my Tenmoku gold. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a tiny bit of floating blue right up here. And in fact, this was dipped on the entire body. So I think partially it might be the combination of the two, but I don't see any blue down here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna test it with floating blue, we're gonna test it by itself and double layer it, we're gonna test it with Randy's red, and we're gonna test it with Lumos. We're gonna test it on 4 different things, and one of them is just gonna be a double dip. And we're gonna see where it goes. But we're also gonna put coal in the kiln. Also, as a side note, we're gonna be putting the high majority of these little experiments here on the bottom left of my kiln if this was the front of my kiln. That is the hot spot of my kiln, and I really want to see if it increases the chances of Tenmoku gold. And just because I know somebody in the comments below is gonna ask, these are all B-mix with no grog. We're not using grog here, we're using the pure stuff. And we have to write everything down just in case we forget it. So let's start organizing these bowls and teacups right here. For this line right here, we'll be putting stuff over Tenmoku gold, which means we'll be putting Tenmoku gold on first, and then putting other glazes over it. The last one over here will be the double dip one. This row over here will be the opposite, so we'll put the glaze tests on first, and then we'll put Tenmoku gold over it. So this will be Tenmoku first, this will be Tenmoku second, and it'll keep on going all the way down the row that way. Let's make this first row Randy's red. These two are going to be Randy's red, these two are going to be floating blue, these two are going to be Lumos, and these last two are going to be the double dip right here. And the rest of you are not going to be used for my torture experiments. Okay, well I now remember why I never mix my Tenmoku Gold and my Lumos together. It's because they literally hate each other. I feel like I should have remembered this. I might still stick it in the kiln, actually. Oh my god, I glazed them so fast. Okay, so we're pretty much done here, and the only real problem that I had throughout the entire process is that the Tenmoku Gold and the Lumos right here didn't seem to like each other. So for this one, I had to put the Lumos on first and then the Tenmoku Gold, and that one's still drying. But as far as this one goes, do not, I repeat, do not put on Tenmoku Gold first and then put Lumos over it if you happen to have these two recipes. For some strange reason, I'm sure it has to do a lot with the heaviness and the mass of the glaze itself, it immediately started dripping off, and it took half of the Tenmoku Gold glaze with it, although it left a little tiny bit of Lumos. I'm going to kiln this anyway, just to see how it goes, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna put this on stilts because I don't trust that. So over here we have the Tenmoku Gold first. We have Randy's Red, we have Floating Blue, we have this demon of a Lumos cup over here, and then we have just Tenmoku Gold that is very well double dipped, and I'm gonna put it directly next to the coal briquette inside of the kiln, all the way in the back left corner to see if it gets some good stuff. Just in case this works out, I kind of have a secondary set of proof to say, hey, double dipping them and then making sure they're really well glazed, waiting until it dries one layer, putting on another layer, works rather than doing all of this work. Now all we have to do is put these in the kiln in the right order. I have to put them in a specific order because if I don't take them out in a specific order, I might forget which order I put them in. And I want them back in the same exact order when I take them back out of the kiln. Well, that's all the experiments as far as the Tenmoku Gold tests go, and I already wrote down their positioning so I can remember exactly where they go. Now let's figure out where this coal is gonna go. And I'm also most likely gonna put it on a shard of a kiln shelf because, I mean, I'm chaotic, but I'm not crazy though. I'm not ruining my kiln shelves. I'm serious. You guys thought I was clickbaiting you? I'm not. That's a legit piece of coal in my kiln.
But Dante, we want to see you load the rest of the kiln. We wanted a free kiln opening episode from this experiment. No, you gotta wait your turn.
I was gonna put 2 pieces of coal in there, but I think in case it makes a really big difference in the rest of my glaze bodies, I'll just put 1, because if 1 makes a big difference, I don't want to go up so much for 2. So I just want to see what 1 does for now.
One minute, 37 seconds later. Yeah, boy.
It's actually a really good thing we wrote these down and what position they were in the kiln because I would have not remembered. Let's take a look at the left side first, and if you remember correctly, the left side is where we put the Tenmoku Gold on first and then put a layer of another glaze over it. This is Randy's Red over Tenmoku Gold. This actually didn't turn out too bad. I will say I can see where the Tenmoku Gold was, but if I'm being really honest with you, this just looks like regular Tenmoku if you've ever seen the Tenmoku without the gold specks in it. Weirdly enough, I'm actually quite happy with this glaze combination. I'm probably going to write this down in my book so that I can just remember what this is and how it works. But this isn't too bad. But again, this is kind of just a fix to my Tenmoku Gold. This isn't really the true effect. This is the Floating Blue over Tenmoku Gold. I'm starting to notice a pattern with my Floating Blue, and it's that it's really strong. It essentially takes over any glaze that you put on it. It just turns everything blue, or sometimes rutile brown. So this didn't work out too well. I can't see any Tenmoku Gold inside of this glaze recipe at all. Although I will say that it made the blue look fantastic. It really did. I'm probably not gonna write this down. There's no reason to keep this as far as the glaze combination goes, but the cup itself is actually fairly nice, if I'm being honest. It's a nice little teacup. Oh, this one almost melted, remember? This is the Lumos over Tenmoku Gold, and if you guys remember correctly, this almost melted, right? This just started sloughing off of the glaze body, and it started to take some of the Tenmoku with it, so I had to stop and dry it off real quick. But to be honest with you, it looks really nice. It's just the issue that it's gonna start sloughing off and the glaze combination doesn't work too well together. They don't seem to like each other too much, but this combination of Tenmoku Gold is actually extremely good, but it's not safe. If I'm gonna bet this is not safe as far as to glaze like this. I'm just gonna end up wasting a bunch of glaze. Now let's look at the right side, where we put the glaze on first, and then we put Tenmoku Gold over it.
But Dante, why aren't we gonna look at the two bowls in the back?
That's because they're actually really nice and they came out proper this time. And I like to show you guys the best thing last. Alright? It's a tactic I use called have patience is what it's called. This is the Randy's Red underneath the Tenmoku Gold. It didn't do anything. It essentially turned everything brown. My Randy's Red has been acting weird lately, and it only seems to work at cone 5 instead of cone 6. I guess that little tiny discrepancy in heat, which is very little actually, the difference between cone 5 and cone 6 isn't that much, but I guess that much heat really matters. So this didn't do anything. I might write this down to tell myself to not do this, actually, to not put Randy's Red first. This isn't bad, but it's definitely not good. This is floating blue first with Tenmoku Gold over it. You see, no matter what you really do with this floating blue, it's going to take over or ruin the glaze underneath it. So I'd rather just use this glaze by itself. Floating blue is a good standalone glaze, but you can see it was really trying to kill off that Tenmoku Gold. It didn't even make any headway on the inside. The blue just kind of took it over. And as I said before, if it doesn't turn blue, it just turns rutile, much like this entire cup. But this, oh this, is Lumos first and Tenmoku second. This is gorgeous. This could have been inside of a kiln load all by itself and it would have definitely been the winner. This, I'm extremely lucky I got this out. This will most likely, I'll take pictures of this and this will be good on Facebook and Instagram, but dang. I'm going to mark this down and then I am going to make sure that I know this happens when I do this, because dang, it's beautiful. The one negative thing about it is it is a little bit runny. You can see it started to pull up and it almost went off of the kiln shelf, off the bottom of the feet right there. There's that much clearance space left, so I have to be careful with this one. Now I'm gonna write these down for later, but these two are how my Tenmoku Gold is supposed to look on a clay body. It's nice, it's glossy. I wonder if it's because I put it in the hot spot in my kiln, or if it's because that specific level down there had the coal in it. Keep in mind, these are double dipped. I dipped them once, I let them dry fairly well, and then I dipped them again. I never had to do this double dip method before, but if that's what I gotta do to get this effect out every single time, then that's what I'm going to do. It would have been a different story if this came out good and then this didn't come out good, but I did the same exact thing to both of the bowls and it worked 2 different times. So I'm gonna say this is how I'm going to do my Tenmoku Gold from now on. I'm going to double dip it, I'm gonna let it dry one time, dip it a second time, and I might keep on putting a little piece of coal at the very bottom of my kiln, but I'm not quite sure yet. Somebody put a lot of extra dolomite and lithium in this glaze recipe. I don't know who did that. We should find him. He's probably ruining this glaze. There's too much yellow in here. Well, thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. I really wished this would have went on longer. Like, I wish this experiment would have failed and then I had to redo it somehow or put more coal in the kiln or find a better hot spot. But to be honest with you, I just found 2 or 3 new glaze combinations and a way to kind of make sure that my Tenmoku Gold comes out fine. I was panicking there for a little while because I thought I messed up my recipe somehow by contaminating it, or maybe it got too old or I didn't mix it well enough, but it seems that I just didn't put enough layers on there, or I didn't mix it with the right stuff. Next time I'll probably do just this and see if it works, and next time I'll probably do just this and see if it works. And if the double dip method works, then I can essentially just get rid of this piece of coal here. But if the double dip method doesn't work, I have a bunch of different glaze combinations that make just as good as Tenmoku Gold as it would be if it was double dipped over here. But again, thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. If you'd like to see any of my actual artwork, the links are always down below for your beautiful Potter eyes to see. Or if you want to join the Facebook community, that link's down below as well. There's tons of helpful Potters that are always willing to give some really helpful advice there. But again, thank you for joining me today, and I will see you, Dirty Potters, next week.
Dante, you should buy a tester kiln so you don't ruin your regular kiln with it.
But you leave me alone. You leave me alone. You let me do what I want to do. Oh, great. Now I got coal all over my new table.